Welcome once again to Heart of a Shepherd. I am continuing our study for today. Our first devotional was taken from 2 Chronicles chapter 1. Now this is the second devotional for today, and it's taken from Psalm 72. I've titled this devotional Solomon's Reign and Christ Messianic Kingdom. Now this is a brief devotional. Now regarding Psalm 72, there is some disagreement about who authored this particular psalm. Some believe that David wrote it for his son, the king, and therefore it was called a psalm for Solomon. And yet the last verse of Psalm 72 does seem to identify David as that elderly king as its author with the words, verse 20, the prayers of David the son of Jesse are ended. However, there are other scholars that consider it a psalm by Solomon and therefore written by him. Well, briefly, let's consider Psalm 72. Now, notice in the first verse we have David's prayer, if David is indeed the author, David's prayer for Solomon. Now, near the end of his life, certainly we find the king praying for God's blessings on Solomon's reign, and expressing his hope that his son would be fair, honest, and good. And then verses 2 through 17 gives us Solomon's reign and its prophetic significance. Now, I believe Psalm 72, verse 2 through 17, had an immediate application for Solomon's kingdom, but also a prophetic implication that will be fulfilled during the reign of Jesus Christ, that is, his millennial reign. Now, David desired that Solomon's judgment as king, verse 2, would be righteous, and the effects of Solomon's rule would be peace, verse 3 through 4. And yet, Psalm 72, 5 through 8, will be fulfilled only when Christ returns and rules the earth. In verse 5, then, the reign of Christ will be a reign of righteousness and will inspire fear and reverence among those he rules. Now again, there is a parallel with that of Solomon, but I see in this passage statements that will only be fulfilled in the future. And so you notice in verse 6, this time of this rule in this kingdom is described as one of rain and dew on lush pastures in verse 6. One whose rule will bring prosperity and peace, verse 7. That while Solomon's kingdom was great, it is Christ's future kingdom that will fulfill, verse 8, from sea to sea, from the river unto the ends of the earth. Now the reign of Christ on earth will be compassionate. In verse 12, the Lord will deliver the needy when he crieth, the poor also, and him that hath no helper. In verse 13, he shall spare the poor and needy, and shall save the souls of the needy. What a glorious day it will be when men are redeemed, verse 14, from deceit and violence. Only the kingdom of Christ will fulfill that. Also, we find in verse 15 the prophecy that Christ will be constantly the object of praise on the earth. In verse 16, his reign will be a time of abundance. In verse 17, his name, his kingdom will endure forever. Again, a prophecy that was not fulfilled in Solomon, but will be fulfilled in Jesus Christ. And we read in verse 17 that men shall be blessed in him, all nations shall call him blessed. Well, notice then verses 18 through 20, the Psalm 72 ends with a doxology of praise to God. In Psalm 72 then we read, the king praises and how he thanks God, anticipating the day when the glory of the Lord will fill the earth. Well, thank you for being a part of Heart of a Shepherd as we continue our chronological study of the Scriptures. God bless and bye-bye.